All right. This after we're going to be talking with George O'Connor, who is currently running a Kickstarter for his comic book Charlie Spot. And I don't know how I came across it, but when I was perusing the different projects on Kickstarter, this one kind of jumped out at me because it seemed almost like a slice of life comic story. So, and it's something different from the regular and tights. So I'm going to quit rambling and go ahead and bring George on, and he can tell us all about this project.
And I can pick up
How's
the
it going,
ramble.
George?
It's going very well. It's going very well. Thank you for finding it. Thank you for digging it and wanting to chat about it. I really appreciate it.
So before we get started talking about your book, do you remember when you first picked up a comic or the first one you read?
I know what my brain has assigned the first comic I picked up. So I have an older brother who's 9 years older than me, and he was into comics. And so, when you're 17 driving to the comic book store, your 8-year-old brother is going to tag along. And so I am a Claremont X-Men kid. All of those early 80s covers are just burned into my head. The one two that I will always think of is the Storm and Morlocks fighting. I'm blanking on who the leader of the Morlocks was, but it's like the two of them in the air at each other's throat. And then the classic Wolverine standing over the Kitty Pryde, and it looks like he snicked her. Like those two will always jump in, but that's early 80s. New England Comics in Quincy. That's where I fell in love with comics. But then, like most kids, or some kids, got older. Brother moved, went out to California for college, and shockingly, the parents weren't as interested in going to the comic book shop. So kind of fell out. Have always been a nerd, so I've always kind of kept my eyes on it. And it really wasn't until about 2010 as an adult that I kind of became a weekend warrior or a Wednesday warrior again. And coming back into comics as an adult, it was guys like Fraction and Bendis that really helped kind of hone what I liked as a reader as an adult. And then that kind of spilled over to Jason Aaron, Gail Simone, now Donnie Cates, those guys and gals. So those are kind of like my two origin stories.
It's a good origin story. With your reading these days, do you tend to follow characters or maybe create a team or a writer or something like that?
I am more creator driven these days than character driven. If we Jason Aaron, if his name's on a book, I'm gonna read it. Matt Kent, love him. Donnie Cates, there's so many that my head is now just kind of like jamming up with names. Kelly Thompson is someone who I've really started. Sometimes you got to take a step back and realize like, oh yeah, it just recently happened with Kelly, where you kind of look and like, oh, I'm reading a lot of her books and I'm getting a lot of joy out of her books. She's elevated to, if your name's on it, I'm going to give it a shot. So yeah, I'm definitely more creator oriented. That being said, you give me a Hawkeye story, I'm there in a heartbeat. She-Hulk, there's a new Taskmaster book out there. I don't know why, but I effing love the Taskmaster. So you give him his own title, I'm there.
Yeah. And when did you first start, dabbling? Well, I don't say dabbling, but when did you first decide to, create your own?
Probably around that 2010 mark. So I'll try and do the brief origin story. Musician, still a musician, will always be a musician until my hands fall off. But along that path, I started writing short films. Got together with a great filmmaking collective here in Boston. Spent years doing that. That morphed into a web series that I created and wrote called 664: The Neighbor of the Beast, which is still up on YouTube. Yeah, it's about a family that buys a house and realizes they've moved next door to Satan, who is trying to live a quiet suburban life away from hell, and then hilarity ensues. And for about 2.5 years, we did 2 seasons, 34 episodes total, and for 2.5 years, like, that was my creative life. I was writing so we could shoot, so I could edit, so I could write, so I could shoot, chasing my tail and wrangling the cats for 2.5 years. And by the end of that, I was burnt out. And around that same time, San Diego Comic-Con, its interest was, spiking. Twilight had just hit, Iron Man had just hit. So I was watching this coverage of San Diego Comic-Con in 2007. And I'm watching the coverage going, I think I want to go to Comic-Con. And by the end of the 4 days of coverage, I'm like, we're going to Comic-Con. And so, diving into the deep end of that and attending a bunch of panels of, comic book making panels, a light bulb went off. It was like, oh, if you find the right artist, you can kind of tell any story you want, which was really intriguing, because kind of like the rule of thumb with short filmmaking, or at least DIY filmmaking, is don't write what you can't shoot. So if you don't have access to a pirate ship, don't write your epic pirate movie, because you can't shoot it. So that's why 80% of everything I shot happened in my house. So again, seeing kind of like the creative freedom that went into comics was really enticing. And then it started from there. And luckily I was sitting next to a friend of mine who we'd known each other for years, and he was an artist, when this epiphany kind of hit me, and we started kicking around ideas. And that led to the first comic that I made with my friend Griffin S. called Healed. And that was around 2010 that the first book came out, and been grinding since.
Now, I believe on your Kickstarter profile, you mentioned you did some stuff for homeless comics.
Yeah, that's our imprint.
Yeah. I've seen that on. I've seen advertisements for that on Facebook, and I was like, that's something I should probably check out.
Yes, you have. Yeah. It's so we've done 3 books underneath that banner. At this point, 3 graphic novels. Healed was the first one. It's what would happen tomorrow if all life-threatening disease and illness went away today. It was a fun premise, and now we're kind of living in the middle of, that premise would be real interesting. So Griffin and I did that one. Kind of heady, big concept thinking. At the end of that, we wanted to do something else, but we were also maybe a little tired from being so heavy and thoughtful with what Healed became. So we did an all readers book called Baby, about, basically kind of like Clifford meets Godzilla. Baby monster from the deep accidentally destroys Atlantic City. And you were talking about your son. It was kind of inspired by my son when he was, at that toddler age, where just watching him, it's like, okay, he doesn't want to knock things over. He's just bad at walking. So what if all these monsters from the deep, what if all these monsters destroying New York, Tokyo, what if it's not that they hate the cities? They're just on land, out of their element, and they're just very unsteady on their feet. So we did that as kind of a bit of a palate cleanser. And it's a really sweet story that we wrote and created so adults and kids could read at the same time. Kind of like that Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes model where everybody's laughing at the same time, but maybe for different reasons. Again, any parent watching this knows this. At some point you will consume media for children. 95% of it is terrible, which means you really appreciate the shows. It's like they didn't forget that adults are watching this too. And those are the shows that like you thank the creative gods that this writer's room didn't forget the parents in the equation. And then after that, I got together with two great creatives, Dafu Yu and Leslie Atlansky, and we we created a book called Silent Night, which answers the question, what does Santa Claus do with the rest of his year? And we proposed that obviously he would be a crime noir, crime-fighting detective using his Santa powers to help find lost children.
Nice.
Yeah, and those are the three books that have
Oh.
come out under Homeless Comics.
Oh, okay. Well, again, so I guess good for me that I finally because it was just like I saw that, like that's interesting and maybe something to check out, and I guess I did.
I know a guy. I can hook you up.
So let's talk about your Kickstarter
Sure.
that you're right now. It's Charlie Spot. You want to kind of talk a little bit about what it's about and kind of what inspired it?
So the premise of Charlie Spot is a homeless veteran, after suffering a heart attack, returns to his busking spot in the big city park, and finds out that it's become the epicenter of a turf war between other buskers and performing groups, because this spot is the perfectly located spot between the financial district of this city and the tourist park. So in his and what we find out is that the spot, for reasons he doesn't share with anybody, is very important to him. And so he starts going around the city doing everything he can to reclaim his spot. And with each roadblock, the story just kind of becomes more and more ridiculous and over the top as he becomes more desperate and frustrated to get his spot back. And so that's that's the premise. What it's really about at its heart is that kind of feeling that we all have, that we're kind of alone, that we don't always realize how many people care about us and have our back. We're kind of like so compartmentalized in our own head that we kind of forget who's got our back. And so that's kind of what this story turned into being. We kind of take this guy who, for his own reasons, right or wrong, better for worse, has isolated himself. And we kind of watch him understand the power of breaking out of that isolation. And on top of that, we've got people in bear suits fighting clowns with balloon swords.
And what inspired the story?
For 10 years, I worked in downtown Boston. So for 10 years, I had the exact same routine. And I noticed over time, the same people, whether they were buskers or homeless or whatnot, were kind of always in the same place. And after you clock that for a while and, you're a writer, you just kind of wonder, like, well, there has to be some sort of agreement between everybody, everybody I see out here, that, this spot is person's X and it's not challenged. So what's the mechanism? What's happening behind the curtain that, me as somebody who comes into the city and leaves the city, what's going on behind the scenes that has put this structure together? And so that was the starting point of it. And then the two things that kind of made me fall in love with this idea and wanting to pursue it. One was when I was putting together the type of person we might want to follow on this journey, and that became Charlie Scott, our lead character. As the pieces kind of came into place, I was really interested in telling the story about a homeless vet who has been and is going through his own things, and what he feels like he needs to do to deal with it and protect the people he loves. And that was kind of born out of around the time as I was putting this all together. there were a lot of shows and a lot of TV tropes about the crazy homeless veteran, like the dangerous, he's suffering from PTSD. He's going to take out the town. And when you see it once, it's once, but when you see it a lot in a short amount of time, it just really struck me as just how like insincere that was. Because, I have friends who are veterans, and they all have their stories. They're all very good people, and it's just kind of like, everybody's dealing with something. A lot of it's probably quiet and internal. So I wanted to do something that was the antithesis of what I was seeing. I want the person quietly trying to deal with what he's going through, while still taking it seriously and not negating it. So as the pieces of Charlie came together, I was like, I really want to hang out with this guy and tell his story. Now, the other part of it, the secret sauce of all of this, is as this was formulating in my head, I was with a bunch of friends, other creatives, and I was sharing this idea. I got this idea, Charlie spot, guy, heart attack, busking spot, blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends kind of looked at me and was like, yeah, and then what are you going to do with the other 45 minutes of your movie? And it pissed me off. So the secret sauce to Charlie's spot is love and about 25% spite. When he so dismissed this idea, like it really kind of hunkered me down and focused me. It's like, oh no, I'm going to figure out this story. I'm going to make this story as best as I can, and I am then going to shove it in your face. So, every now and then the little bit of competitive streak comes out, but who knows? That might have been the fuel that actually got Charlie's spot from something that I was just tinkering my head to something that is now shareable with the world.
Well, one of my favorite parts, it's in the beginning of the book, is this map of the layout. It's like, all right, now I'm really interested to kind of meet all these different groups.
Yeah, if you love that map, you love Meredith Langston, sorry, zoned out for a second. Meredith Langston, who is the illustrator and co-creator of the book, and you love Ali Pepitone, who is the colorist of it. Seeing that map, the way it came together, this map is just one example of why this process, as long as it has been so rewarding, is getting pages from Meredith and Ali and seeing, ideas that maybe have been in my head for years, or just words on a page, and seeing their talents and their passions come through, and taking a vague idea from my head into what you see there, and just how good and fun. And what's been great about this project, and I don't want to leave out our letter Taylor Esposito, because he's a rock star to begin with. Everybody has elevated this book and this idea, which, as a creator and a collaborator at heart, is everything I've always wanted in projects. It's been such a joy to see them come in and take an idea and elevate it and add to it, and make this thing that I've loved for years, make me love it even more with their, like I said, talents and involvement and passion. And this map is just one of those things. And I think in the story, it also does give a quick little like wink and foreshadowing that there are going to be some different elements to this book. It's not necessarily going to be a straightforward slice of life, that we're going to throw some things at you.
Yeah. And how do you find your creative team?
Uh,
Did have you worked on with them before, or
I haven't. As far as people I've worked with is they're all new to me. Which is again fueling my passion for getting this book out there, is because over these 2+ years I've fallen in love with Meredith, Allie, and Taylor, and all I want to do is shout from the rooftop and put a spotlight on all of them, so everybody can start to love them as much as I do. But a lot of luck. It came with a lot of luck. I'll try and do a long story short. It's probably already too late. There was another artist attached to Charlie Spot. Life got lifey. She wasn't able to take the book from pitch to actual series. Around that same time, a friend of mine, Andy Schmidt, from a company called Comics Experience, which is kind of like a comic book university, really. We've been friends for years. When I started taking classes from him, he was doing a portfolio review at SCAD down in Savannah around the time that he wanted to publish this, but we lost the other artist. He had just seen Meredith, and he sent me her portfolio, and there was something about her work, and this is where I wish I was more of a true artist, so I could speak the language. But there is a humanity and heart, while still kind of having that comic book over the top's not the right word, but just kind of that energy that you want from a comic, right? It's real.
yeah,
It's real plus. And so her character work was great, her acting was great, her backgrounds were great. And I said, she looks fantastic, let's see if she's interested. So I just got real lucky with the timing that she had just graduated or just about to graduate, so she was looking for a gig. And I have no doubt that when this book comes out, and she's doing another book that'll be out next year called MPLS Sound, that I've had a chance to get a little sneak peek of as well. By 2021, if she wants it, she can have a rocket put on her back, and she's just going to take off. Once people start seeing what she can do, in extended series, for us, it's 80 pages. I think MPLS might be around the same, maybe more. So yeah, we, the universe brought us together, and there was something about Charlie, the character and the story, that spoke to her beyond the, yes, I will do this for 80 pages for my page rate. Which again is, I think, what elevates it. That this wasn't just a job for her. She found something about it to put her love and passion into it. And then I also love that she's a storyteller on her own. She has her own story. She will tell at some point, and I can't wait. So working with her, she's got that eye. She's got kind of like that training and thinking, where she can see where I'm going and go, that's great. What if you did this? And that little this is the 5-10% improvement that turns it from an A- to an A, that type of thing. And she was great to just kick ideas around with, because again, that's what I love. When we started searching for colors, she knew Allie, and Allie has Allie came in at such a crucial time, kind of around the midway point of us making these 80 pages, where it's less fun, more of a grind, just as any project becomes. But Allie's energy and enthusiasm was such a needed shot in the arm, and then to go on top of her collaborative nature and her talent, was wonderful. So now we're getting, colored pages back, but with this zeal and energy
yeah,
to the delivery of it, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Now, the last part is Taylor. originally I was going to letter this book. I am a fine letterer. I can hand you a book I've lettered, and you're not going to go ew and throw it down. It's fine. But watching Meredith and Allie elevate this book, it just kind of hit me that to put fine lettering on top of the hard work that they were doing, and the work I was doing, I brought in he's a writer and a friend, Rich Duick, to edit this because I wanted to be as good as I could be. And so to have all of us trying to and elevating this book, I felt like, well, why am I going to take it to the 10-yard line and go, great, let's kick the field goal?
Yeah.
So, that didn't make sense. So I was like, all right, who can I, what pro can I bring in to do this? And Taylor, I had known his name thanks to comics Twitter, and from being a Wednesday Warrior. I mean, IDW, Image, like basically every logo has Taylor's work on it at some point in the comics industry. But what sold me on him was going to a local convention, walking by, just someone like me in Artist Alley with their book. And I clocked that Taylor had done his lettering, and I picked up the book, and the lettering was as good as any of his IDW or Image work. Just someone like me who's like maybe making 50 copies of this book to sell at a couple conventions a year. Taylor had the same passion and energy, and professionalism for this Artist Alley book that he does for Image. And that's what sold me on it right there, knowing that I was going to be working with a professional that cared. And that's the origin story of our little team.
Wow, that's wild.
I'm incredibly
besides Charlie, who are the other characters in the story? Because I know that there's a menagerie maybe of people that he interacts with.
So Andre kind of becomes Charlie's wingman. Andre is a younger kid that works in the financial district, but they have a history that we'll get into as the story goes along. Yeah, so that's Andre on the left, and on the right is Barbara, who is our antagonist, isn't our antagonist. She plays a role as well. And then what I really wanted to introduce was kind of like this big, like you said, menagerie of other characters, because the tightrope of this book, and that I pray to God we pulled off, is there is humor in this book, but you can't have the humor be at the expense of the homeless veteran. Like, that's gross.
Right.
And he truly is. He is the heart of the book. But, I did want humor. I did want bizarre. I did want kind of like unexpected magic. So, and I was not going to make, the PTSD veteran the butt of any of these jokes. So you bring in characters that can reflect the ridiculousness of the world. Andre definitely acts as kind of the reader's view into this world. Andre's the one looking around going like, this is really weird, right? I'm not the only one seeing this. And then, like I said, Barbara comes at this from her own angle and from her own experiences. She sees it a little differently than Charlie does, and that Andre definitely does. And then we've just got, like I said, this wonderful cast of characters that help push the story, add to the humor, and just bring this whole book to life. And again, you can see, the wonderful work that Meredith and Allie did, taking this group and bringing it to life.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the Kickstarter itself. What you're I think you're 2 weeks
Yep.
and you're over halfway to your goal.
Yes.
What can if what are you offering as rewards for people who decide to back the project?
Yeah. So we're bringing 3 different covers to the campaign. And at the lower tier, you can choose. We've got Allie. I'm sorry. Let me back up. So Meredith that's her cover right there. We have another artist, Jackie Morrow, who did kind of like our B cover for it.
Hmm.
And those are our standard covers. And then, yep, that's Jackie right there. And then Allie, who is an artist on her own, right? Like she's this is the other thing kind of about the book. Like everybody has these other talents that might not be on directly on display in the book, but they're all bringing it to the book. Like I said, with Meredith, she is a writer and a storyteller on her own. She might be listed as illustrator, but her talents exceed just that box. Same
Hmm.
thing with Allie. Allie is an artist on her own. And so we thought, wouldn't it be cool to show off her range of talents? And so she is doing the Kickstarter exclusive cover. This cover is going to be made to order. If 5 people want it, if 150 people want it, we're going to print that number and that's it. So those are the 3 covers that we're bringing to the table. Um, Meredith and I also like stuff. We like gack. And so when we were thinking about what we could do, our bear character, we love him so much, our person in bear suit. So we made a pin featuring our man in bear suit. And then also because it is 2020, we went ahead and we're going to make masks of our bear. And and if you scroll down a little more, yeah, so you can see kind of a mock-up of what our mask is going to look like. Again, this little bear character is the gift that keeps on giving. The other thing that we're doing with this campaign is, the fact of the matter is anybody who would have set up a table at a convention in 2020, it got taken away from us. I've got a basement full of books that I ordered at the beginning, in January, thinking, all right, this is what I'll sell this year. But we've got a bunch of tiers that kind of go directly to support Meredith and myself. So you can get a little
Hmm.
more, you can learn a little more about what we do. Like if you came across our tables at a convention. So, my 4 graphic novels are available in different sizes and orders. And then Meredith put together a bunch of stuff from her that is just tremendous. It's so it's 5 mini comics, 9 free prints. You get to choose one of her 2 pins and one of her 5 stickers. And you get all of that stuff sent to you. And again, it's that portions of that are going directly to support her.
Hmm.
So it's a way to mitigate some of what the financial hiccup we hit as creators, but then also back the campaign as well. And then as of this morning, we have 7 original pages from the book. 2 of them have been purchased so far. So there are 5 original pages from the book, the 11 by 17 Bristols that are available as well.
Okay. So, is there anything that maybe we didn't cover that you wanted to mention?
Um, I don't know where you're at these days. The royal you, Chad. I know where you are. But it was never the intention. But man, I'm really glad I'm putting this book out right now, because it is a book that, at its heart, it's It's a human book. It is fun. It is uplifting. And if you need a little humanity, if you need a little hope, and you need a little humor, um, I think Charlie's the book for you. You know, if a book that is fun and over the top in all the right ways, but never forgets that kind of like we're all human beings at the heart of the story. Yeah. And like I said, I am so proud and excited for what Meredith, Alley, and Taylor did. That this is an easy book to talk about, because I don't have to talk about me. I can talk about those three and the incredible job that they did. Um, you know, again, I think there are three people, and I will go out of my comfort zone and say there are four people who put a lot of love and talent and time and passion into this book. I think you can see it. I think you can read it. I have shared it with a couple people. And so far I'm 2 for 2 on making grown men cry by the end. I take that as a very good compliment. I think we've done our job at that point. And yeah, I'm excited to share this story and the talents of the team behind it with people.
Well, if you'd like to give a one more pitch and include your any social link where people can find you, I'll definitely include the link to the Kickstarter in the when I post the show. But yeah, if you have any social network links that you'd like to include, then just kind of give us a one final pitch as to why people could you know check your book your campaign out.
So, Charlie Spot, if you want a book that is fun, that can make you laugh on one page and kind of hit you in the feels on the next, which are some of my favorite books out there. Art that is created and drawn and colored and lettered with love and passion on top of talent. Um, I check it out if you know as yeah. This sometimes I get so like thoughtful and caring about this book, all the words just jam into my head. I love this book. I love this creative team. For like I said, for 2+ years we've been working to bring it to you this day. Um, and I would love for you to check it out. If you go to the Kickstarter page, we've got 4 preview pages up there, so you can see what the story's about. You can see the art on display. You can hear about the passion and history that went into it. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, which is where I'm most active, it's at Lazy Horde, LAZYHORDE. And as we talked a couple times, Homeless Comics is my imprint. I'm also talking about the book a lot there, and Homeless Comics on Facebook is where you can get those updates. And then homelesscomics.com is where you can learn more about my previous work and get free previews to all the books.
Well, people should definitely check that out, and I hope you are successful with your campaign, because you were nice enough to give me a copy to read, and I really enjoyed it, and it made me want to find out more about it myself. So I just hope that you wish you the best of luck, and that if in the future you're more than welcome to come back, and we can we don't even have to talk about what you're doing. We can just talk. You can just talk.
I'm very good at that, and if it's about creativity in any way, shape, or form, it's one of my favorite pastimes. So you may just get a random text on a Thursday saying, "Fire it up and let's talk." Thank you. I really appreciate it.
But yeah, definitely think people should check this out, and like I said, good luck, and let me know if there's anything else I can do to help.
Will do. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chad.
All right. Well, stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. You too. Thank you.